And welcome back to episode 41 of The Hunt. Today, you're only joined by two of the amigos, Benny Roberts and myself. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, mate. Yourself?
Very good. Apologies for the new setup with the podcast. We actually had some technical issues before this, but we'll be back next week and we'll sort it out, making sure you guys get a nice landscape view of both of us.
That's it.
Instead of this up close and personal one. But today we're going to talk about more specifically to our Australian listeners because it's rolling around into summer, mate.
Yep.
It's starting to get pretty hot. And we just want to give some like tips and advice around like how you can manage your recovery and obviously like your performance when it comes to training in the summer periods of Australia. So, mate, I guess like other than just going down to the beach and having a bake,
Yep.
how do you structure your week or I guess like your training, or how do you prescribe, I guess, protocols around recovery for your athletes when it is starting to get pretty hot? Do you talk about it with your athletes and such?
Yeah, well, it's been like a little bit of a conversation that I've started to have just because I've been more active myself. So I'm trying to be more in tune with my own body and how my response is then when I come in to train. Obviously, the biggest thing about when the weather is really good is that most people are going to be outside and way more active, right?
Yeah.
So just having like a typical consideration that if you're like activity is going up, you may have to, supplement that with a bit more food or a bit more intra-workout nutrition just to be supporting that additional energy expenditure. But basically, like, if I'm looking at it through just the lens of someone who is just increasing activity, like going out for walks and things like that, always really good to just be like on top of like the step count just to see like a metric of how you're tracking, and if you've done like an excessive amount over one weekend, you may feel that going into your day one of the following week. And if so, just being aware of it, you don't really have to like navigate it any more than just being aware.
Yeah. So like, for example, I don't wear I hate wearing watches.
Yeah.
So I know that if I do a block of the lap at where I live, like I go up a hill and down it and back around, and I do it like one or two times, I know that I'm getting like at least like 3,000 steps in per round, and I only tracked it for one round. And then same as like tracking nutrition, for example. Like you don't necessarily need to count calories or like put it in your phone or whatever. You just need to kind of like have a ballpark of knowing, like, okay, if I eat this amount per day, I know that I'm getting within this range. And it just takes the, I guess, like repetitiveness out of it, and it makes it less numerical, you know what I mean?
100%. Like you don't have to track it as a metric and like record the data every single day. I just use it as like a tool to just have a glance at and just be like, oh, I've been more active or less active.
You look pretty
today.
good wearing it, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Matches your fucking tattoo.
Very good. It's like aesthetic.
Can you get a pink strap?
Pink strap?
Yeah. Oh, I mean watch, not
a pink watch. Mate, that's insane.
I tried to make a sexual reference there, but you didn't pick up on it.
A pink watch. A pink strap. Oh, that's insane. Anyways, but yeah, no. So, I guess just being aware of how much you're moving, how that's gonna like impact you for like the consequent days of training. And then something as well, specifically for people who are chasing like a step count specifically, like, so I'd include myself in this bracket, is it is really good to obviously get out in the sun, but trying to make sure that if you are going out for like longer like sessions of low intensity steady state cardio, that you're trying to space it away from your lifting so if you lift in the morning, then it's out of the way, so you can just do whatever you want for the rest of the day. But more specifically, if you're an afternoon or evening trainer, just knowing that if you train at 3 p.m, don't go for a walk in the blistering sun at 1 p.m. for an hour because you'll feel cooked. You just need to remember that, like, obviously given the fact that it's really hot, you're probably going to be working up a sweat and being exposed to a lot of heat. You're going to have to replenish yourself with food and electrolytes and water.
Yep, definitely. I think as long as like you're structuring that like daily expenditure around your training week and not making sure that you're chalking up on, I guess, like daily exercise before those primary sessions, and you can obviously set yourself up so you're not getting too exhausted before you start. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Like, say for example, your old man's in town and he wants to go for a walk along Merriweather, and it happens to be a primary squat, deadlift day, bench day, whatever it may be. Preparing for those situations, I think you just got to look at making sure that you are hydrated. You're having adequate amount of electrolytes. Obviously, that's the number one thing that's being excreted when you are, sweating a lot. So just making sure you're replenishing those things. So that's super, super basic. But say for example, like when it does come into summer, one of the things that I notice personally speaking is that obviously I am more thirsty because I am just sweating more.
Yep.
And you're not going to hold on to as much water.
Yep.
So one tip that I really find that does assist me is just making sure that when I wake up before I have any food or anything, and it's actually helping me fast at the moment because I am cutting, I try and have like at least a litre of water just before I start the day. Yep. So that's something that I really recommend, especially in the hotter months. And if you're someone who doesn't necessarily drink a lot of water throughout the day, you definitely notice the difference like towards that midday period where it is starting to heat up and you are starting to feel the heat a little bit more.
Yeah. And it's building a habit that way as well, and just like front loading that habit. So it's a task that's completed early in the day.
Yep.
And then especially for people who struggle to get like a decent water intake in,
Definitely.
like it's just ticking a box when they wake up and then that's it.
And then the other tip I have is if you take pre-workout, obviously like there's things like osmolality and like how it breaks down in regards to touching water. I really, really recommend like actually following the instruction protocol on the back of a supplement brand where it says consume with 750 mils of water. So if you are having a scoop of pre-workout, it's probably recommended you should have the serving recommendation for water with it. And if you have that 750 mil worth of water before you train in addition to your pre-workout, not only are you going to get the benefits of how the pre-workout is going to actually metabolize, but you're also getting fucking 750 mils worth of water in your session.
Yep.
And you're not going to be, having to drink as much as you're training and feeling that bloatiness feeling. Because as you know, when you take pre-workout, it's going to be taken 30 minutes prior. Yep. So I think that's a really, really big key.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you're not taking pre-workout, like, I don't know, like just drink cordial or like sugar-free cordial
or electrolyte.
Electrolyte.
You could have like a Powerade powder in that.
Powerade powder with sugar, without sugar, anything, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Nah, cool. I guess like the other thing is it's fucking stupid, but like making sure that you're training in an environment that actually like has good airflow, I think is really like underrated as well. Like we're really lucky here. We've got like 8 fans at HPC, but if you're training in a gym that doesn't have fans to like move around the air, then it's going to evidently increase like the exertion of how hard your exercises are going to be.
Yep.
It's harder to like train under like humid and hot environments because obviously like your body is going to be metabolizing just so much more energy to stay cool.
Yeah.
So I guess just like acknowledging, in summer training is really hard.
Yeah.
So it can skew your RPEs a little bit, and contextually speaking, like you should be taking note of that.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I think. And like just being aware as well, and this kind of comes full circle back to that, like, scenario where maybe you've had like a day out in the sun, it's been like pretty hectic, like your RPE scaling is going to like take a hit because things are going to feel heavier. So then, it's always good to rely on how you're feeling, but it's not the be all and end all. Like always watch the training footage back and just think, oh, okay, like, am I just being a bitch? Like, yeah. And then the other thing is, something that I typically use is when you're moving into like higher priority weeks throughout a block length.
Yep.
That's when you can like, in the final week or the final 2 weeks, then start to be like, okay, like I want to put my performance
first
as a priority.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reduce like my, my energy expenditure elsewhere by, going and getting a mad tan for 3 hours of a Sunday arvo.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? So in that final week, I'm going to, just rest and recover in the air conditioning and, make sure that I'm prepared to perform the following day or week.
And to touch on that, like this is probably a bit separate off topic, but it's similar a sense of where it's like when you eat food in summer and you are going for a tan, for example, on a low priority session day or something like that, you actually digest a lot quicker. So like you can have a bigger meal and you'll actually like clear that food a lot faster than what you usually would during winter. Because obviously like during winter, like it's a lot colder. So your body is going to like be more of that parasympathetic state where it's just going to want to hold on to the heat of digestion a lot more. Whereas like if it's just fucking hot, your body just wants to be like, oh, just get rid of it. I need the energy to go to my, secretion system or whatever it may be, like just to cool down. But that's a good tip. I got another one. Obviously in some parts of Australia, it gets really, really humid. So, knowing that like the bar is going to be harder to hold on to and your hands are going to moistened up a lot faster. So what's some actions you can do to keep your hands dry and not tear calluses? Not that you tear many calluses.
I barely ever do.
Yeah, well, I could probably give some advice.
Yeah, you probably have some advice.
So I do not shave my calluses down because they just tend to stay the same.
I think
thickness.
that's my biggest piece of advice for like to not tear your hand.
Yeah, just
to
don't
not
touch
get caught up in the hand care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the more your hand's only going to get more and more resilient the more you put it through.
Exactly.
And you're just shaving away weeks of hard work. Like, you know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I do
Obviously,
think
there's an extent when it's like caring for a torn hand.
I agree. Yeah,
But that's different.
yeah, but maintaining it, like especially during a summer months, things that I do like during my training, especially when it's in summer and it's really like sweaty and hot. I always use liquid chalk, and I always stand in front of a fan to dry my liquid chalk because the alcohol inside liquid-based chalk, it doesn't necessarily dry as fast because there's moisture just everywhere in the air. So putting it in front of a fan, giving it a good shake, just waiting for it to actually like, properly fully dry out. And then obviously applying dry chalk over the top. Like that's my protocol, whether it's winter or summer, but it's just the bit where the liquid chalk needs to adhere and set. That's the part that just takes like considerably longer. The other things that you can do as well is just to make sure that you are cleaning your bar, because chalk like absorbs moisture. So what tends to happen is if you're in a gym and you're training in like fucking far north Queensland, for example, and you're using the method perfectly where you're using the liquid chalk and then you're using the dry chalk and you're placing it on the barbell. The barbell then is sitting there with caked up chalk throughout the knurling. And because there's so much moisture in the air, moisture is going to attract to that magnesium carbonate and it's going to want to sit on the bar and it's going to make it quite slippery.
Yep.
So what do? You got to make sure you brush the bar down.
Brush it down. You've got to use Jared's bar brush.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's it. And just to go back just before we move on from that. So you mentioned like nutrition before. And I think that something that's like probably really underrated is that when people are out, especially like on days off, like so the weekend, long weekend, or over like holiday periods and things like that, if you are still training, the biggest thing that I notice personally is that when you spend like a full day out and like, for instance, you're at the beach or like you're just kind of going out exploring and whatever, or you're camping or whatever, you've just got to remember to prioritize like quality nutrition somewhere.
Yeah.
So just ensuring that you're getting in like protein sources throughout the
lacking
day.
the MPS.
Yeah. So you need to make sure like it doesn't matter what it is. Like, you can get a cooked chicken with bread rolls and take that to the beach. That's easy. You can get protein bars easy, or like protein shakes, like so chill. Yeah. And then obviously just making sure that like while you are more active and busy, you are probably going to forget about your appetite as much. Specifically if you're getting like caffeinated to like be out in the sun and things like that, iced coffees with the boys. And so you just got to remember to prioritize that and make sure that you are getting like a balanced amount of nutrition. You don't necessarily have to track it very heavily, but just be very aware that with this increased expenditure and increased like recovery requirement on your body, you need to be fueling it with protein and carbohydrates.
100%.
So
I think the last tip or point we'll make is if you are sweaty in a fucking gym, wipe down your benches. Because it's a breeding ground for just getting sick. And if you're sick, you can't train as well. And if you can't train as well, well, I guess you're not making as much progress. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So wipe down your shit. That's it. All right, like we said at the start of the episode, that was a pretty quick,
short and sweet, mate.
Pretty quick ep, just because we don't have Jared and we were a little bit underprepared this week. But a couple of little fucking,
that was pretty good.
Little clues in there for you.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll finish on the classic underrated, overrated, properly rated. We'll be back in a couple minutes. All right, and we're back for underrated, overrated, properly rated. Benny Roberts, what is your topic?
Yeah. So, choosing interstate or far away local meets in preparation for traveling meets such as national or international competitions.
So, you're going to a local meet to prepare for the one that is far away?
Yes.
Fuck. Personally, I don't think it affects you that much, but we'll just fucking go with it.
3, 2, 1. Overrated.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, because so many people put so much value in like over preparing.
Yep.
But really, like the best thing you can prepare for is making your attempts.
100%.
And like if you just do that in your training and like I got guys in the gym, like shout out Dan Lee, I can love you, mate, but like you don't have to be training so early in the day if you're competing so early in the day, because it affects your training. Like unless you've been doing it forever, like you don't have to change like your training to accommodate for the competition day, because like he's been complaining about how cold it is in the morning training at fucking 9 a.m. or like he hasn't had much food, or he has to get up at 4:30 to kind of match the clock of training 5 hours after waking up type thing. Like that's just a bit overkill. And I think if you can just train at the normal time, optimize your performance at the normal time throughout your normal life, like how you've been optimizing it the entire macro cycle, then like the only thing you need to really do is just make sure you're getting up early. Like get up at weigh-in time, just start your day then, and you're not going to feel as fucked as if you're not waking up a bit later in the day. Yeah,
definitely. And not to mention, like, I do think that there's like a valid point in having experience of traveling and competing, but it's not something you actively have to seek out. It's just something that comes with your progression in the sport, and I feel like that's how it should kind of be. That's how it should happen, and that's how you should rely upon that exposure to it, because like you see people who are like veterans of the sport still going to international meets and still having the same outcome of like maybe only repeating what they did in training, or maybe only, just beating it by a few kilos.
Or maybe even just underperforming like dramatically because they aren't exposed to it. You see it at Junior Worlds. Like it was, everyone didn't hit a total PB except for maybe like a couple people.
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing is that they're just so exposed to like that much travel, you know what I mean? And I don't think that, with the pool of lifters that we have in Australia, everyone shouldn't necessarily be doing it to prepare themselves for nationals.
There's nothing that's going to prepare you for that or recreate it. It's just going through it. That's going to
24 to 30 hour travel time, time zone difference of complete opposite.
It's a whole
food, different water,
a whole beast. Like it's
sleeping in an economy on Thai Airways.
And like, I just think having the like word of mouth reference of advice from people who have already done it just to help guide your process. Absolutely. But you don't have to go out of your way to be like, oh, I'm going to go and travel just so next time I go and travel, I'll be better at it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And more specifically, like I think for people who are at that like more like intermediate stage, like it's even less valuable because like, especially with like the increase in like a qualifying total or something like that. Like that's the first objective, is to hit that. You know what I mean? If you're already thinking about the next step, don't worry about it, because you have to like just have a really good comp and fucking qualify.
Line up all
Don't make it harder for yourself.
I think if you ask any advanced lifter, like they're going to say, I'd rather compete like fucking next door or like in my hometown. Like, it's fucking hard. Like competing and traveling and competing is very, very hard. Like it's you understand if you're listening and you don't believe us, but wait till you do it.
So I think like the preparedness for it, through the advice of other people who have done it in the past, that's like valid. But I think seeking to do it yourself so that you're ready for the next time is just not a good thing.
Okay, my one.
Let's go.
Setting a date when you should hit a total PR or a certain PR. Overrated, underrated, properly rated.
Count me down.
3, 2, 1.
Overrated
as fuck.
Yeah, no. I personally think that attaching a deadline to a performance metric is just setting yourself up for disappointment. And I kind of had this conversation, with one of my clients the other day, because I asked her how she felt about her recent comp. And she said, like I didn't hit the numbers that I was expecting or was like really wanting out of myself. And it wasn't because she had a bad prep. She had a good prep, especially relative to her externals. She carried herself really well at her first sanctioned meet. So many positive things, but still walked out because she was like, I wanted to hit this on this day, with a bit of disappointment, right? So I think the biggest thing, and I related it to like other sports, I was like, can you like imagine talking to someone in the NRL and they walk out on game day and they're like, fuck, I need to score 15 points today. If I don't,
or I need to win the premiership today and it's round 1.
It's like, man, like you like becoming more like process driven, thinking I come into the gym, I need to nail the execution of this variation today. I need to nail my RP selection, like with my load allocation, like, you know, all of these things. And then stacking those chips and then enjoying when those peak times happen, you know? And it's like having an end goal isn't going to make the process any different.
No.
You're not going to work harder because you're putting pressure on yourself to achieve something by an end date. No. Specifically if you're a high achiever.
Definitely.
And especially with something like this where it just takes a long time and there are so many things at play. It's not like you're studying and you're trying to complete a course and you're like, oh, if I do, you know, this module and this module on this day, then I'll be done by this day.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not a fucking video game.
No, it's not. It's like, it's hard, consistent work, and your body doesn't want to adapt, and it's going to have like plateaus and like, injuries, you know, injuries and all kinds of roadblocks.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
Like, fucking
like
hell.
Loss of momentum, regaining it.
Yep.
You know,
lifestyle factors. Like, summer's here and it's fucking hot.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So I think like demanding too much out of yourself in terms of a timeline specifically is kind of tough. I think it's different if you go in 2 years' time, I'd like to compete internationally.
Yeah, because that's not I believe there's a big difference in quantitative versus qualitative data.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
So I think if you set yourself like, I need a total X number, I need to squat X number, or I need to improve this by this many kilos, that puts an inherent amount of pressure on your training altogether. Whereas if it's a broader goal of some sort that, you know, if I just go to an international comp, that means it could be worlds, it could be regionals, it could be fucking like, I don't know, you go to another IPF affiliate in New Zealand and you compete there for fuck's sake.
It opens the doors of possibility instead of closing everything off into one.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, like, not only, like you said, there's more pressure in your training, it's going to lead to you probably enjoying the process less and then just, you know, hating yourself and training. But the inevitable time that comes when you have the opportunity to actually execute this goal, the amount of pressure you're going to have on you to do that is going to be insane.
You could compare it to fucking beer pong. We've spoken about beer pong a lot. Final cup, it's either fucking, you know, the size of a Carmex lip balm fucking lid, or it's a bin. You know what I mean? And like, if you want to like aim for a goal that's the size of a bin, you're hitting it fucking all the time. Your enjoyment for training, for succeeding your goal every time is going to be so much more than just aiming for the Carmex lid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, mate.
Yeah. So that's a good point. I just think as long as you know that strength isn't linear and you cannot force it to happen because it's this thing that like can only be facilitated with like progression overload across a number of many different programming variables and principles.
Yeah. And we've had this conversation multiple times. Like, for you to make ecstatic progress, so many things have to be aligned. Like,
and people do make ecstatic progress, and they're like, I can do that. Like, why can't I do that?
I've done that in the past. Why can't I do it now?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, you're not the same person you were 6 months ago.
No.
Yeah,
I'm literally walking proof of that. Like, during COVID, got the strongest I've ever had.
Yeah.
Opened a gym, started a company. I haven't PR'd in a fucking long time. 4 years since I've done a squat and deadlift PR on the platform because I've just done so much more outside the gym, and I'm okay with that because I understand, I know the science behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
So until that day happens, don't set time frames for when you want to hit something.
I think on that note too, like a good point is like, just don't put all of your eggs in this one basket of like, if I total this, then I'll be good. Or like, if I do this, then I'm validated. Like, there's so much more to life than what your total is.
Exactly
like,
right.
No one, like, honestly,
no one gives a fuck.
Mostly, no one gives a fuck what you total. They care more about like who you are as a person and, you know, what you're about.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Put value on that, and then your interaction in the gym and like the process and how hard you work, because how hard you work talks more about you than fucking what your total says.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've received more praise coming back from my injury and actually like persisting it after nearly 3.5 fucking months of no squatting and deadlifting than what I did when I did 340.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, nobody cares about 340. Like, that was massive maybe 3-4 years ago. But yeah, like I've received so much more praise of how like motivating and cool it is to see that I've stuck through it. And hopefully a lot of my clients and, you know, people around me can see that.
100%. So I think that's because it resonates with people that facing adversity is way harder than just making PRs when training is easy and good.
100%. PRs are fucking easy.
They're easy.
Very easy.
Yeah.
And if you open your lens, you're actually PRing a lot more than you think too for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, set rep PRs, fucking RPE relative PRs, fucking variation PRs, accessory PRs.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Life PRs. And on that note, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week with episode 42. Cake Leonard should still be here with us. He's
If he survives Fiend 6 times today.
Fiend. Oh, he's got Travis Scott. That's right. But yeah, take care. Be kind to one another, and we'll see you next week.